The way this usually works, I'll just lead you into talking. You've seen it before. It's no big deal. Uh, all right, check this out. This is CrunchCast episode number 10. This is a very special CrunchCast because it's all about heavy metal music. My name is Chris Holden, and our guest today is Patrick Morrison, a character artist that I've worked with before at Mythic. And yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, Pat. Say whatever you want.
What's going on, everybody? Chris, thanks a lot for inviting me on. Like you said, my name is Patrick Morrison, and I'm a character artist in games. I'm also a huge metalhead.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to say where you're working now, or have anything you want to talk about the project, or just...
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk about the project
Sure.
as these things happen, but
Everybody understands.
I'm a character artist for Kings Isle Entertainment out of Austin, Texas.
A lot of good guys there. One of my old roommates works there, too.
Yeah. He actually sits right across from me, and then behind him is another ex-Mythic guy, and across the room is another ex-Mythic guy.
Hey, there were so many people there.
A lot of familiar faces.
Right on. So, yeah, if you see our little banner at the bottom, which Pat can't see yet, but I added little horns to the side of it, so it's all scary looking and heavy metal. But I did it quick, so it's sloppy. No big deal. Anyway, yeah, let's just get right into it. Why do you listen to heavy metal music, Pat?
I think there's a lot of answers to that,
Of
and
course.
they're all kind of varying levels of depth. But I think it's really easy to get pulled into the really deep answers. But on the surface, it's just very entertaining music. When I was younger, I was always looking for heavier music for whatever reason. Just it resonated with me,
Sure.
and until I found some of the weirder corners of extreme metal, I just really didn't. I wasn't a big music fan. Like all growing up, music was just sort of that thing that came on the radio, and until I was in
Right. Oh,
about
God.
junior high, you know.
To be fair, how old are you? Like 20?
I'm 27.
7? So I'm 32. So I kind of know that age where you're talking about. There wasn't an internet then.
No,
There was.
no, there wasn't.
There was literally radio, and depending on how old you are, you would go to a music store if there was one in your area. Like for me, you would drive like 20, 30 minutes to go to the mall. It was the only music store, and they had cassette
Wow.
tapes, and then CDs and so on. But yeah, so a lot of this. How would anybody have known about this type of music outside of the radio, or just finding it and going to shows, like-minded people, or even magazines? Remember magazines?
Yeah, dude. I remember magazines. Geez, what was it?
Metal Edge or
Circus
something?
Parade, Metal Edge, Circus Parade. Jeez,
I
Decibel?
honestly don't remember any of them.
Decibel magazine.
That sounds right. I remember there was also a bunch of guitar magazines too.
Yeah,
That you could
yeah,
find.
definitely.
I found out a lot from
Mo-
guitar magazines more.
Yeah, definitely. Like there was a music shop, not too far from me, and I used to play bass, so I would go to like the Guitar Center, and I'd see like the heavy metal magazines, and I got a lot of music from there. But I think it was about, honestly, it's been so long, but I think it was about a 25, 30-minute drive to the nearest music store
Right.
where I grew up, and it was this little shop called Looney Tunes, I think. I want to say that sounds right.
That sounds right, actually.
And there was, and it had a small section in the back. The small section was for the good metal, in my opinion, but there was a metal section there, and that was where I kind of found some decent stuff. That's where I sort of got my first taste of death metal or things after that.
Right on. I kind of feel like I was late to the boat with a lot of this like death metal and black metal and stuff like that. In the sense that when I was growing up, I mean, when I was before I could even drive, like junior high or elementary, somewhere around then, my sister, an older sister, she got into a lot of bands like Guns N' Roses, like a lot of that a lot of that old glam metal and
The hair
the hair
bands.
stuff, power metal, pop metal. Like she liked Meatloaf and stuff like that. And early Pantera, when they were kind of like hair metal, but then they kind of switched over, and oh man, Pantera. When I had one of my cousins played me some of that, their earliest stuff, and when I first heard that, I was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like these guys, I was like, these guys are serious. When you listen to stuff on the radio, everybody's like, I'm having a good time singing about some crap I don't really know about. But these guys, they were, man, something. What happened to this guy? Did he get like really beat up as a kid? A lot, probably.
That's sort of the effect that it had on me too when I first heard it. Because before that, I mean, I grew up in New York, like right outside the city in Nassau County. If anyone who's going to be watching this knows who that is, but
That's
it was like
people actually know.
Yeah, well, but Nassau County probably not so much. It's right next to Queens, and it's on Long Island. Anyway, it's sort of like where the sort of urban areas become suburbs, and depending on where you are, it's lame. But the only thing that was available right outside of New York, and anyone would probably know this, it was the Z100 radio station, and it sucked. Like, it was awful. It was pop this, and I mean, every once in a while, like, well, I thought it was decent when I was in junior high. Like 311 would play. 311 was all right. I could dig on that.
Look, let's just go ahead and clarify something real quick. We're gonna name a lot of bands today. Today, you would say, "Man, that band sucks." But okay, when you were 14, when you were 11, these were good bands.
Yeah, I could dig on some 311 at the time, but you had to kind of wade through all sorts of other pop crap. And so that was really my only musical outlet at the time, was this one radio station that I could pick up. Everything else was either talk or even less acceptable music. And it wasn't until I started kind of exploring outward, when I heard my first taste of metal, that I was kind of blown away by it. I didn't really know what to do. Like the heaviest I had listened to before that was like Korn. I'm like, Korn's pretty tough. Korn's metal.
Oh yeah, I've got some positive things to say about Korn, but go ahead.
And but yeah, a friend of mine actually turned me on to a band called Cannibal Corpse.
Oh.
And Cannibal Corpse was kind of my first taste of extreme metal.
We will definitely be speaking further on Cannibal Corpse, but anyway, continue.
And that's really just sort of where it happened. I listened to it. I listened to Butchered at Birth was the album.
That's the one.
My first Cannibal Corpse album was Butchered at Birth, and something clicked. Something was right about that, and I, after that point, needed to find more music of a similar genre. Absolutely. And from there on out, it just branched out, and I just started listening to all sorts of stuff. I mean, even now today, like, I'm still a metalhead. I always will be. I love, like, if you were to look at my MP3s or my CDs or whatever, it's 99% metal. But I do branch out quite a bit nowadays, anyway.
Oh yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff. I understand. There's times when it's like, man, I want to hear something that just isn't so fast.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if I'm at work and I'm stressed out, and I know putting on some heavy metal will just make me want to headbang at my desk. That's probably not the best mood to be in when you're under a deadline. So I'll find something a bit more laid back. But
by the way, the wiki says Butchered at Birth came out in 1991.
Sounds about right.
For what it's worth.
Sounds about right. 1991. Damn.
The thing, well, apparently the band originally formed in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a lot of bands form, and it takes a long time to get an album.
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, Butchered at Birth was their second album. Their first one was Eaten Back to Life, and I think that was like 89 or 90, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just checking the wiki. So, actually, it says Eaten Back to Life, 1990. And when it comes to Wikipedia, we all know that sometimes this information might not be.
It's probably more accurate than my memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw that one out there.
I'm saying I'm looking it up so we can say it's around this time. But hey, they
Works for
might
me.
be right. But yeah, man. Oh god, Cannibal Corpse.
It wasn't 91 when I got that album, by the way.
Sure.
I think it was.
2 years
think
later, or
more accurate is 97, 98 is
oh
when I think
wow.
I got that album.
Well, yeah, they've been around a while. So,
Yeah.
like I said,
Yeah.
88. So, what year were you born? 87,
84.
84. So, yeah, you were 4 when they formed. Rock on, bro.
That's right. A lot of good things happened in 84, right?
It's a good year. But yeah, we were
It
talking
was a
about
good year.
you were talking about Korn earlier. Like I said, I grew up with all that type of metal that my sister listened to, but I kind of, when all that gangster rap stuff started happening, and what other? There's a few other types of music that I was getting into. I was getting into more like Nine Inch Nails and industrial type music,
Hmm.
and I really loved all that stuff, and I liked a lot of the harder industrial stuff.
Yeah,
But
I actually rather like quite a bit of that still now.
oh,
I mean, I
sure,
did the whole.
put it on.
I listened to quite a bit of that, and I still experiment. Not experiment with it. What was it? What would be the right word?
Listen every now and then.
I don't know. Yeah, from time to time, because it's really, sometimes it's really good stuff. There's this
And
one
there's
band
also
actually.
nostalgia of it too. That he's like, oh, I remember that song. And there's pretty
Oh,
much.
that happens to me with Rammstein, man.
Oh, I tell
Like
you
when
what.
you're talking about industrial, like Rammstein totally gives me the whole like, I'm in junior high again.
Yeah. I tell you, there's a lot of good Nine Inch Nails songs that you could go back and listen. Almost every one of them's like, oh man, remember this one? Wow.
Mm.
But where I was going with that was the kind of stuff I was listening to when my buddy, he worked at a radio station, so he would get albums like 6 months before they dropped apparently. And he just showed up at my house with that first Korn album, like not a proper press, like a radio press that had I can't really explain what the case was. It was a weird case that you're not used to seeing. Anyway, I was like, holy crap, this is pretty hard. And from there, I kind of found a few like-minded bands like Seven Dust, and then
Hmm.
which led me on the proper direction
Yeah.
of moving into much better bands such as Sepultura. Because what I found out that Korn kind of got their start through Sepultura by there's a track called "Look Away," which Jonathan Davis did like a duet bit on, which came out around the same time as that original album. So apparently, I didn't being outside of the metal scene. I didn't know that was going down.
Hmm.
But coming into it later, I was able to backtrack to the right people in Sepultura, which is the T-shirt I'm wearing right now. Sepultura.
I listened to quite a bit of them. When I was sort of in my little early journey finding
They're
hunting
definitely
for
one of
metal.
my earliest that I would say is proper metal bands. I especially like some of their older stuff, and then like when they got really tribal too,
Mhm.
like Radha Mahata. That's a dope song.
It's good. See, it's odd for me because I sort of skipped a lot of bands that people today I would imagine are just sort of like, oh, of course I listened to them. Of course I listened to this band. It got me into metal. Bands like Slayer. Like,
Yeah, Slayer. You know what? This is one of those bands that I actually missed the boat on Slayer.
I completely missed.
I went
the Slayer
back and I listened to quite a few of their songs, and they've got some awesome songs. And I really love that South Park where they used "Raining Blood" to scare away all the hippies.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, I love that.
That was great.
But yeah, I totally missed the boat on so many of these bands like that, and I remember going back and finding them, like with Cannibal
Yeah.
Corpse. It wasn't until I actually got when I actually got my first job in the game industry, and I went to a studio and was I grew up in South Carolina where that's the South. The
The real South.
interesting thing, the college I went to was in the exact same county as the band Nile.
Mm.
Greenville, South Carolina. Apparently Nile came from there. And today they're one of my favorite metal bands, but we'll talk about the favorite stuff later. But yeah, so I didn't even get no like-minded individuals as far as metal was concerned. Like I had a few friends that liked punk, but what that meant is they liked The Offspring because they were on the radio. Once I actually got a job at a studio, there was this guy that was just a total metalhead. Like he had a sketchbook, just everything was just over the top metal drawings and stuff, and he he introduced me to a few of the early death metal bands for me, which included 6 Feet Under and a little bit of Cannibal Corpse and Deicide.
Mm.
And I still listen to all those bands.
I still listen to all that. Not so much 6 Feet Under. I dig 6 Feet Under. It's cool, but I don't know. I kind of stopped following them, and that whole fallout between them and Cannibal Corpse. It was really odd.
Yeah. I don't really follow them. I just have a couple of their albums that are in my playlist.
Yeah, I have. I definitely have one or two laying around here. And apparently, it says the connection between you is too slow for good video.
Yeah, you started getting a little grainy. Sometimes when you're doing Skype over time, you have to like recall, or it'll just kind of go iffy for a little bit and then come back. As far as you, your video is still here, and like I said, your voice got a little grainy. If it continues, I'll just recall you. If not,
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Actually, your audio sounds pretty good now. Yeah, man, I got into those death metal bands first off. Like Deicide's still putting out albums, and it's still good.
It's still good. I haven't actually listened to Cannibal Corpse as just sort of like something that I've gone after listening to, or bands like Nile. I do like Nile quite a bit. I have a few of their albums I rather enjoy. A lot of the Metal Blade bands, fall under really good music, and finding that, I don't know if, did they still do this with CDs, where like if you buy the CD, inside is like a little like mini catalog of the label.
Yes.
That has like a bunch of, do they still do that? Because that was a great way to learn bands, at least for me, because I'd buy Cannibal Corpse album, look at the little insert, and just sort of order one or two other bands and just give it a shot and see what happens.
Absolutely. No, they do that. I still buy CDs every now and again when I just like a lot of those bands come with awesome things. If you buy the latest Cannibal Corpse album, Evisceration Plague, and some of the previous ones also included a DVD that had this whole documentary of them making the album, and it shows them in studio, and it's interesting. And George Corpse Grinder Fisher is such a nerd. He has this long section of the DVD where he's talking about playing WoW. And I think he's wearing like a World of Warcraft shirt in the documentary, and he loves that. Even if you read the thanks at the end of the CD case, he even mentions World of Warcraft, and he goes on this long diatribe about people that play as the good guys are pussies, and I know exactly what you're talking about. There's like a viral video that went around. This whole viral video of just Corpse Grinder talking during an interview about how he's like, oh yeah, I'm an undead warrior tank, and I fight dragons. That's so him.
It's totally amazing. Him. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Hey, let me just try and recall you real quick, because it's not really improving so much. I'm just gonna press that button. Video call Patty M. There he is, maybe. There he is, for sure.
Is good?
Oh yeah, you sound so much clearer now.
Okay.
Hey, this is just a part of the internet, folks. If you're on it, you know it. Yeah, Old George is a funny guy, and if you like I think this is a really, really important thing that happened in metal, whether people are going to recognize it or not. But the show Metalocalypse,
definitely
the inception of it, and it is the most recent, I would say, mainstream acceptance of brutal death metal music. Because Metalocalypse, unless you've been living under a rock, I don't have to explain it, but it's a television show, it's a cartoon on Adult Swim, so it's a cartoon for adults about a death metal band that in this fantasy world, they're the biggest band in the world, like so big that they change the world's economy and have all this super high technology for all their shows. It's a ridiculous show, but a lot of the music's, while it's still humorous because it's a comedy show, a lot of the music's pretty legit, and they've put out 2 albums, and they tour with a show. It's apparently a really good show. I haven't seen it, but
I missed it when it came down here, which is unfortunate.
they'll
Because
be
I
around.
really want to. I'm sure they will. But both of those albums are good. Like the songs are humorous because it's about really
Yeah.
stereotypical metal themes.
A lot of
And then
them
they
are.
just- and
Yeah.
they tend to mock it.
I love
which is
the
awesome.
death harmonic track,
Yeah.
where it's like a lot of metal bands will always have that one track where they have like a symphony or orchestra in the background, unless you're Demi Bugia.
When you
it's
have
all-
every song is symphony orchestra.
But it's the whole song is about how he doesn't want to pay his taxes so that he can afford a second home and all that. Just ridiculous stuff. But it is an awesome song. And like the Go Into the Water song about giving up
Oh.
humanity and fire and going into the water and
Becoming a
drowning
fish.
to become a fish and growing gills. It's just a ridiculous song, but man, they do a great job of it.
It's hilarious.
But anyway, the main character is based on George Fisher, pretty much. Their whole...
and
Go ahead.
I was just saying because if we got back to George Fisher, someone on that WoW dev team is like a huge metalhead and saw that video because when I was still playing WoW, they added a character in one of the areas in in one of their expansions, an orc that was named George Corpse Grinder
Nice.
in an area, and I was wandering around playing the game and I saw that and it was just I don't know, just made me all warm inside.
That's very cool of them. I've never even played WoW because I know that it's a game that I could easily get addicted to.
It's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah,
It's
it's like heroin. No, but, so yeah, Death Clock, the band from Metalocalypse. The Nathan Explosion, the lead singer, is pretty much based on him.
Yeah.
The rest of the band isn't necessarily based on the band Cannibal Corpse, but they're kind of based on other characters. Look, there's a lot. If you follow metal, you would recognize a lot of these guys.
They're pretty much like each one of them sort of represents a different sort of subgenre of metal, and they're all based off of kind of different prominent or mixtures of different prominent
Absolutely.
figures in the metal community.
But man,
And
they have done a lot for metal.
They really have. It's
They brought it to the
kinda
mainstream again.
it's very strange that a show about extreme metal, genres of metal that really like you have to hunt for. You can't just, well, now I imagine it's quite a bit easier with YouTube and everything else,
Oh.
but I don't, yeah, obviously, but you don't hear people talk about death metal or black metal in mainstream culture, pop culture, or what have you. Those aren't words that you generally hear unless someone set fire to another church.
Yeah, I was about to
So-
say, unless you're in like some Norwegian city or...
But yeah, it's just not really heard of. And then this show comes out about a death metal band, and it just sort of blows up. I think it's awesome because more people are listening to good music, and metal isn't really looked on in such a negative light, I suppose. Because I do think that a lot of people look at it negatively.
Well, sure.
And if they could get introduced to metal through something like an animated show that's really funny and has really good music.
I would
Awesome.
say one of the biggest drawbacks for a lot of the mainstream audience is just the vocals, the styles, the really like growly or black metal kind of, whatever you want to call it. Each style has like a different kind of style that has been evolved over so many years of different bands influencing different bands and pushing it to the next level.
Each band is sort of trying to. It almost feels like they're trying to out-evil the last band.
Oh yeah, well
That's definitely how the black metal.
Black metal has
bands-
definitely been the out evil. You know that documentary I sent you about Gorgoroth?
Mm.
It talks about like Venom being like one of the initial, being basically Venom is pretty much the first black metal band because they got disenfranchised by how heavy metal was getting a bit more poppy in America. And They even had one of their albums was titled Black Metal, which is
Yep.
where it got named. And from then, that spawned a lot of the other bands like Mayhem, Immortal, and Emperor, and stuff like those bands who are actually. Oh, I'm really excited. Mayhem is coming to town in November.
That's awesome.
So it's like them and Keepers of Kissian. I'm saying that shit.
Keep of Callison.
Thank you.
Callison? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wrong, and I knew I was when I started saying it. Cause it's actually funny. I went to I forgot who it was. The main show. I always remember every band together, but not the main show. They were one of the opening acts, and when I went to buy, it was Demi Borgir. How do you say it? Demi Burger? Demi Borgir? How do you say it?
Dimmu Borgir.
Dimmu Borgir. I always say it. The funny thing about me is I always say it. I pronounce it different every time, so get used to that, folks. Anyway, I went to see them, and I'm pretty sure these guys were opening for them, and I went to the merchandise stand. And the cool thing about going to a live show is all the opening bands are usually right there at the merch stand, going, "Buy our album," or just talking to you, getting pictures and stuff. They're usually super cool. Almost all the time. Not all the time, but usually they're super cool guys. But these guys, I just bought all the merch. I had like a ton of money that I brought to buy all this stuff, and I just bought the stuff that I had to get, but I didn't really know much about these guys till I saw them. And I really liked them, but I ran out of money, and the whole band was right there, like right next to me in my face, with holding the album, go, "You like this band, though? You should buy our album. You'll buy our album." And I felt bad because I'm like, I ran out of money. So anyway, when they're coming back in November, I'm going to buy their album and tell them that story.
Nice.
I'm going to say, I ran out of money last time. Anyway. So, yeah. Black metal was coming up with those bands. And the ones after them have just gotten harder.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know like in the early '90s, like if we're gonna go talk about the black metal side of things, which is, I mean, personally, it's
I'm more of a black metal fan, but I don't know how you like them.
Yeah, I'm a giant black metal fan.
Well, that's cool.
I was actually tempted to change shirts, get some Gorgoroth going on, but just felt silly about that.
Sure. I've got a Dimmu Borgir shirt. I've got obviously the Sepultura shirt. I've got I've got a whole bunch of shirts, but Belphegor. I saw those guys live. They're so funny. I love when a metal band doesn't take itself super seriously, just for the entertainment value in a live show. However, when they are super serious, the entertainment value on a live show can be crazy. Like Cannibal Corpse live, every time between tracks, dude, that George Fisher guy says some funny ass shit. Like the last time I saw them was when the Evisceration Plague album dropped, and he was like, between tracks he was talking about it, and he goes, "You have 3 days to buy our album, or I'll kill you." And everybody just busts out laughing, and they go right into the next song. And like the Belphegor guy, he was talking just like freaking Cookie Monster between every track. And I could tell he was in on it, because he was just saying funny ass shit. I don't even know what he was saying now, because look, we're drinking a lot of beer. We're at a metal show. Anyway, that's a little anecdote.
The lead singer of I think it's Entombed. Or Enslaved, maybe. It's Entombed or Enslaved, I can't remember.
Look,
but he does like a silly, like a kind of like a metal comedy act between
It's
songs.
going to a Weird Al show.
It's like going to a Weird Al show where everyone's wearing black. He just cracks jokes, like metalhead jokes, makes fun of people in the crowd in between, really heavy metal. It's very odd, but really cool. It's good to not take yourself. It's good to not take yourself too seriously, especially when we're talking about, extreme metal, and you're singing about either Viking. You're singing about Vikings.
Oh yeah, like the Vikings.
Satan.
Look,
or
I'm
killing
off.
people. Yeah. If you're gonna sing about Vikings or Satan or just slaughter, you really can't take yourselves too seriously, because it's, even in itself, it's kind of become sort of a parody of itself. Metal has sort of become.
Well, absolutely. If you're talking about Satan and metal, you're doing a parody of Christianity.
Yeah.
So yeah. But Gorgoroth is one of those bands that takes themselves super
Very
serious.
seriously.
Like
Yes.
like they are legit about that stuff. And Deicide originally wasn't super serious, but I guess this new guy, he like has like carved an upside down cross into his forehead, or I don't know if that's legit. I don't know what's real. If he's
It looks pretty legit.
It looks legit. I would believe it. But they seem to take themselves pretty seriously about their Satanism, because like it's, I kind of gotta laugh sometimes because I'm listening to them. Like I get their even their newest album. Literally every song is like talking about like massacring God and Jesus. It's so over the top that it kind of makes me laugh a little. But I
Yeah,
I
it
get it.
definitely is. It's funny stuff, but a lot of those, there's a few really good documentaries about that type of music, going into black metal and its history and the active bands, and you can kind of take from each one what you will. One of them is called A Headbanger's Journey,
Oh, here we go.
which is a really good. It's a really good documentary. It's not just about black metal, but they do have a whole section about Norway. Like the guy goes to Norway, sees sites, talks to people. Very very good overall metal documentary where he goes through all sorts of different genres and sort of breaks it down, sort of how it's evolved over the years.
That's really good to
And
know
then,
because I can be a testament, which is a band name, to to the fact that if you like a band, you should really do your best to trace their inspirations and like who
yeah,
came before them, because you might
definitely.
really like that. But anyway, go ahead with the documentaries.
Right. So there's the Headbanger's Journey, and then there was another one that came on some world TV documentary. The name is completely just escaping me, but it was all about Norwegian black metal. And then there was a new documentary that's very recent. I think it came out last year or maybe the year before. Not 100% sure on that, but it's extremely recent. Called Until the Light Takes Us. And
Yeah.
Until the Light Takes Us is
That's about that
it's not
Varg guy, right?
it's about Varg Vikernes and Fenris, who is member of Emperor. Yeah, Emperor. Yes,
And what
that's
was
right.
the band? Was that Mayhem initially?
Mayhem started around the time of Emperor. I think Mayhem
No,
may
I
have
mean
started
like
first.
with Varg.
Varg was in Mayhem, but
And didn't he like kill the drummer and then burned a bunch
Yeah.
of churches down?
he killed the lead singer.
Okay, that's what it was.
Well, not the lead singer, the guitar player. He killed the lead guitarist of Mayhem, whose name was I'm going to butcher this because it's Norwegian.
Sure.
Oystein Arseth is what was his name. It's an O with an odd symbol, but it's Oystein Arseth is the guy's name, and he went by what was his name? Jesus, I can't believe this is spacing. Euronymous. His name was Euronymous, his stage name, and he was stabbed a ridiculous amount of times by Varg Vikernes, who went by Count Grishnak. He was the bass player for Mayhem, and he had a side project that's still going now that he's out of prison,
Burzum?
called Burzum, which is a really good band in my opinion. I think their stuff's really good.
Yeah,
But
I like Burzum.
that was sort of like the end of the craziness in Norway as far as the black metal scene went, because it was just sort of like an escalation from late 80s and early 90s of just some really insane shit happening with members of these black metal bands all trying to out evil each other.
Yeah.
And who's more true. Suicides, arson, crime, all sorts of, and then eventually ended in homicide, not only from Varg, but also from this Bard Faust of another band who's, I can't remember the name of the band, but he was also involved in a homicide, and when those kind of came to a head, that's when I think the media hit it, and that was sort of like the pinnacle of like the craziness that happened in relation to, when you talk about black metal.
I would,
And
I would kind of relate that a little bit to what happened with gangsta rap in America, because around the same time, gangsta rap was like booming in America, and it was about these guys who were like real criminals, like who could be the more criminal than the other, and over there in Europe, like especially Northern Europe, like it was that same thing was going on, but in metal, it's kind of an interesting parallel. But anyway,
I'm not super familiar. Like if you're gonna, I would go ahead and talk about that genre. But as soon as you start going, like I have no idea anything about hip hop or gangster rap.
I don't really know either.
Like but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, what happened with black metal? Very freaking interesting. It really boomed over there, but not so much in the States.
I think a lot of it had to do with just they had no representation really forever. Like even still, like they don't really have representation. And during the early '90s when all this was going down and these bands were kind of becoming
this is still pre-internet, pretty much
popular. Oh yeah, this is 1993. 1992, 93, when bands like Hellhammer, Belphegor Bathory, Mayhem Burzum, Gorgoroth got started.
Cradle of Filth, Satyricon.
Yes, Satyricon. Cradle of Filth. Cradle of Filth. I'm not sure when they got started, but they're pretty old, and their original stuff is very odd black metal-y, and
it's
they're from the UK, I believe.
Of all those bands that have they have a similar black metal sound, albeit very different. Cradle of Filth is probably the most different of those bands that could kind of fit in that same sort of genre.
Yeah, mostly it was the vocal style, and Danny Filth, who's the lead singer of Cradle of Filth, oddly enough.
Huh. I wonder if that's his real name. Was that his Christian name?
Yeah, I think he chose it when he got confirmed. I think that was his confirmation name.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they started early mid '90s, I imagine. But they're one of those bands that have been around forever and now sound absolutely nothing like their original albums.
Oh, they're very very original.
They're very odd now. I think maybe just screaming like a cat in a bag.
Well, I saw one of their more recent tracks. Brian McConnell, my co-host, my Ed McMahon, if you will, he really likes like a few of their tracks because some of their newer stuff have the clean female vocals in it, which people like that stuff.
Oh, I mean, I'm all for it. I think a lot of their sort of like their transitional material where they started adding the female vocalist. There are a couple of songs out there that I really like. Nymphetamine is a really good song where they brought in female vocalists, and Her Ghost in the Fog is another one that has quite a bit of female vocal going on there. They're both really good tracks, but that was in sort of like the odd transitional phase. Now their music, I mean, their newest album didn't even sound like Cradle of Filth anymore.
I may not have been familiar with this one, so I'll just leave it to you.
I'm not 100% certain on the name, but it like the Fetus of a New Day Kicking, I think, is the name of the album, or at least the song that I heard from the album.
Well, at least it's classy.
Yeah, right. I think the video had A-bombs going off and a bunch of chicks in black leather sitting on a tank, very much like Roderick Murder, my favorite Dominus general.
The unofficial winner.
The unofficial winner. I voted for him.
Hey, it was the most memorable.
It certainly was. No one will forget that guy.
The original penis tank, possibly.
The first time...
Dude, I got an HD camera. This looks so good. Ooh, I wish you could see it. You can see every wrinkle on my face.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I was just bringing that up for no reason.
Hey, my HD camera, you can...
You? Actually, yours might be coming in a bit less just because it's streamed through Skype.
Yeah, I don't have an HD camera. I bought...
Did you get the $16.99?
No. I figured that, if I was gonna do this, I wasn't gonna buy the cheapest one. I looked for like a $25 one because I assumed that it probably wasn't the worst thing in the world to get one that wasn't $12. There was one for $12 there, and I'm like, this has got to be a piece of crap.
It's probably the same quality unless it says like on the box that you get like either it's like a piece of shit like I used to always work with, or it says it goes up to 720p or 1080p.
Hmm.
Like otherwise they're all the same. I mean, yeah, you might get a little bit better quality. I don't know. It could be snake oil.
Fair enough. But what were we talking about?
Well, we were just kind of wrapping up our thoughts on black metal. One of the things
That's right.
I just want to throw out, like one of my, or a few of my favorite black metal bands. I just got to give a big shout out to 1349, as in 1349.
Yes.
If you're looking for something easy, stay far away. If you're looking for something incredibly technical and some of the best drums that you can find in black metal, Frost. 1349 will mess you up.
It's a great band.
Like, oh, man, I think one of my favorite songs right now is off the how do you say this? Demonier album called Atomic Chapel. That song, whew. I played it for a buddy of mine because I was trying to explain, because he's not into this at all. He's like 56 years old. He's like, what is this? I can't even listen to this. But I said, listen to how many tempo changes and how many total, like, what they're playing changes happen in this song. And he listened for like a minute. He goes, I think this song changed 9 times. Like, as opposed to like a radio pop song where it's like, ba, 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 for the whole song. I mean, the fact that these guys have maybe like a dozen albums of tracks that all do this, and they can just play all this ridiculously technical stuff live accurately, because I've seen 1349 live, and none of my buddies knew who these guys were, because they're pretty mainstream metal guys. And every time like Frost, the drummer, would just break into something crazy, I'd be like, listen to those drums, dude, this is the best band here, listen to those drums. And they were actually opening, so listen to this fucking metal dream that I had. 1349 was opening for Cannibal Corpse.
That's an awesome
That
show.
was an awesome
That's
show.
an awesome show. That is an awesome show.
And there was a band, there was other bands there too that were all just awesome. Just lucky day.
Sounds good. Was this for the Evisceration Plague tour?
Yes, and I admit that I blew it. I didn't bring any money with me, and I didn't get any 1349 gear or CC gear. Oh well, there's always next time, or not.
Always next time. I think I saw the same or similar lineup recently when Cannibal Corpse came around, and they had some awesome bands with them that were more to the death metal side of the spectrum.
They usually do a pretty good job.
They did have Skeleton Witch there, which I think kind of borders on like the death metal, black metal-y.
I like them all right.
Yeah, I'm okay with them. I like them because they don't take themselves very seriously. They're an awesome live show. I might not listen to put their tracks in the loop, but
that is a very
they're
important
amazing
point.
live.
It's a very important point about a lot of bands, not just metal, any genre. Some bands you can think, well, this is kind of a dumb band or whatever. It doesn't matter what you think about a band. Either you really love them or you really hate them, or you're somewhere in between. That doesn't matter. The way they perform live could be an incredibly entertaining show. When I was like 14 or something, the very first like rock and roll show I got to go to, that my parents actually allowed me to go to, was because my older sister was going, was Bush. Yeah. And opening for them were Goo Goo Dolls and No Doubt. Now, Goo Goo Dolls, they always had that, I won't tell anyone your name, and I won't tell your name. That song that was on the radio, it's like, whatever. I could be totally wrong. I could be like saying a different song than they did, but their radio song was just silly. But live, they just played all this super hard stuff, like harder than I was expecting, but the guys just stood there and played it. So they were boring. And No Doubt was a band that I didn't really care about at the time, even though I understood that No Doubt was pretty talented. They, say what you want, they had it going on. But they put on a live show that was just amazing. Like, they were just all over the stage. Their brass section were just bouncing up and down, and Gwen Stefani was running all over the ring, running over the stage like a chicken with her head cut off. So to me, they put on the best show. And that's something I look forward to now when I go to metal shows. I'm like, there's certain bands that aren't as heavy as other bands, but their pit for that band is ridiculous because the band is so intense live.
That reminds me a lot of Killswitch Engage. I mean, say what you will about Killswitch Engage, they're sort of, their old stuff is awesome.
Yeah,
I really like I really like their older albums before, kind of before they changed singers. Some of the newer stuff, really awesome. Gotta respect any band that covers Holy Diver. I'm all about that.
Oh, that's
exactly.
Look up that video.
Song.
Look up that video of the Dio cover, Holy Diver by Killswitch Engage. It's a pretty awesome video. It's a humorous take on this medieval. It's silly. Just look it up on YouTube. It's there.
But they put on one hell of a live show. They don't sound anything like their recordings. Like their recordings, it feels to me like they're aiming for their audience, which is, their audience now. I think pretty much the kids who are going to buy their shirts at Hot Topic, and fair enough.
Sure.
If that's your audience.
Look, if you can make heavy metal music that can bridge the gap of being on a radio and being in these mainstream stores, but then when you play live, you stick to you go true, then God bless you. Good for you. You did it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I wasn't super excited about seeing. I wasn't really stoked to see them.
Look,
honestly,
Killswitch Engage is one of those bands that you have to worry that a powerlifting meet is going to break out when you start playing their music.
That's awesome. I'm going to remember that one. But so he comes out and just rips into the microphone. Just all his songs sounded 100 times tougher live. It was amazing.
Oh, sure.
If you're going to go to a show or you're apprehensive about seeing a Killswitch Engage show,
let's give it a shot, you're saying.
Give it a shot, because that was an amazing show.
Yeah, I'll tell you who has been consecutively, or what's the better word for it? Consistently. One of the most consistently super freaking hard and just rowdy bands to go see is Soulfly.
Really?
Like, Sepultura is pretty rowdy too, because for those that don't know about the history of it, Sepultura had a lead singer named Max Cavalera for years, but they ended up splitting off. So Sepultura got a new lead, and Max started a new band called Soulfly. You can look it up, whatever you want to do, and however you want to feel about it, whatever. Here's how I feel about it. Now I got two bands that come to town that I get to enjoy. But I've seen Soulfly at least 2 or 3 times now, and they're just consistently just an excellent show. They never stop playing. Like they never take breaks. They're constantly like they're playing something. So the crowd kind of never lulls. The pit never really lulls, and he's constantly getting everybody into it. And like they'll bring people on stage to play drums with them. It's pretty exciting for me as a metalhead to go to their shows too. As this is one of the oldest bands growing up. And I'll go to these shows and see these young kids with Soulfly tattoos on their shoulders and back, and I'm like, how did you find out about this band? Yeah, all these young guys, so good for them. I guess they're making money.
Yep, for sure, man. It's when you do talk about the younger guys who show up at shows, it is always kind of interesting to me to meet up with someone who's 8-10 years my junior, and they're just as into this music as I am, and they know it. They know the roots. A friend of mine, he's rather young. I guess he's got to be like 19 or something now, and we were just talking music, and he's like, we brought up In Flames, which is an awesome band, and the first thing he said was like,
I've seen them. I'm sure I've seen him open for somebody.
First thing he says is like, I'm a real In Flames fan, man. No joke. I'm like, all right, well, sure. And he's like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I'm all about Lunar Strain. And In Flames originally was a straight up black metal band. They were just really, really raw and extreme. And Lunar Strain is one of their first albums. When if you listen to it, it sounds absolutely nothing like the newer music that they've put out. And In Flames is a great band. I still like their stuff, even though it's quite a bit more pop. You know, it's a bit more mainstream.
Yeah, they cleaned up a lot.
You know, they cleaned up quite a bit. But they also have a huge fan base now, and it's just a very different thing. It's one of those bands that you can like actually album by album see the experimental change towards almost a different genre in itself. They're still, I mean, I'd still consider them a metal band, but they're far different. They've gone far. Nice.
I was just adjusting my. For those that don't know at home, on Skype I use a different camera because this thing that records video won't see this main camera. I just adjusted it because I realized that it was not really looking at me, so I just adjusted it so that Pat could see it. And that's why I laughed. Anyway, you were talking about In Flames. And yeah, you know, they're a pretty dope band. I was kind of, for some reason, when you're saying In Flames, my mind was thinking Unearth for some reason because I've seen Unearth so much lately. But they're like a different genre. They're more like that new wave American metal, like Lamb of God or Chimera, or like you said, Killswitch Engage.
Is Unearthed, do they have the Big Bear and the Hour of Chaos instrumental song? Because that is one of...
Honestly, I can't tell you right now, but I actually saw them a few weeks ago at this big festival. They're from Sweden, I guess. Google it. Well, you got all bright 'cause you put a window.
Oh, sorry, yep.
No, I think...
I'm a floating head. Yeah, Big Bear and the Hour of Chaos, Unearthed. Great instrumental. Great instrumental.
I got to see them live. Okay, there's this big, this ridiculously huge metal festival out here in Denver recently. Look, nobody's special, but I got... Kedron's brother runs... he's our creative director at Ophonic. His brother runs some bars as a manager. And so sometimes we'll get these like VIP or something like that tickets for these bigger festivals. And he had a whole group of us gave us it was like a VIP type of tag for going to this show. All that really meant was there was a special little section that had a bar and it was basically like a little, just a bar and bathrooms. That's all it was. Tables. But the benefit of that was a lot shorter lines than everybody else had to go to for bathrooms in the bar. But yeah, Unearth was there. A whole bunch of other bands was there. On the main stage, which so many people, it was ridiculous. It's been a long time since I've seen this many people. This big like Coliseum. It was like an old Roman Coliseum because it's an open air Coliseum. They have a lot of those out here in Colorado. But on the main one was like a Machine Head. Disturbed was the main show. Which, here's how metal I am, folks. I fell asleep during Disturbed. Disturbed is sleeping metal for me. No, but in their defense, we spent the whole day at this festival and it was super hot. Like it was really, really hot. And
oh yeah, a whole 75 degrees.
No, it wasn't Texas hot. I know you guys have had the hundreds forever, but it was literally like 99 degrees all day. And all we had to drink were these big, giant 2% beers that after 11 of them or so, after a dozen of beers, you start to just get tired. And because of all that heat, and finally the sun was going down for the main act, and we had to have seats. I'm used to standing up at metal shows. I just got really comfy and fell right to sleep during Disturbed. But hey,
oh man, that's
they're
awesome.
headlining big shows, so they're making money. So
yeah, not my flavor, but
no, I don't care for them. I was, like I said, I was there for a lot of the opening acts more.
Yeah, for sure. I can't hate on them. They're getting paid to do what they love. So
Machine Head rocked. I don't even listen to Machine Head, but those guys live they were rocking pretty hard.
I heard that.
I wanted to get in the pit. This is one of those like I said, this show was one of those huge festivals. It's stupid that you have to be in your seat and stuff. And we couldn't even go down to the pit because of our tickets wouldn't allow us. Even though we had those VIP, which meant we got to go to a special bathroom with 100 other jagoffs, we still couldn't get in the pit. And to me, that's bullshit. When I go to a metal show, that's where I live, is down there. Like, I do a little bit of wallflowering while I drink my beers. I get my, my few beers in, but once I'm done with that, I get down in there. That's how I roll.
So loosen up. You need a beer or two. You loosen up. And
yeah, I'm older. I'm an older guy. I have to pace myself. Look, I'm not going to get in the pit for the opening act unless they're one of my favorite bands.
No, you use all your energy way too early. I hardly even pit anymore, man. I don't know. I'm feeling like I don't want to get elbowed in the face again, or break my nose again, or walk out of a show bleeding again. I kind of just want to hang out, have a beer, and enjoy the music.
Well, it's not so bad anymore. Maybe it's because I'm older, or maybe because I'm, like, for me, when I go to a metal show now, it's like I'm older and a little bit bigger.
Mm.
I'm also 6'4", so I kind of avoid elbows.
Yeah. But,
for me, a lot of the guys...
It's like slow motion when you see the elbow going towards your face.
I've taken plenty of damage, mostly to my feet. Even wearing these amazing new rock heavy freaking metal boots. Yeah, look at these bad boys right here. Make them say, look at these, there's skulls. Yeah. This is what I wear to metal shows. These are my metal boots. These have like a steel toe, maybe not. They protect your feet a lot. But yeah, I've had guys like big dudes just like give me the stomp on the foot, and whew, that's bad news. You want to show off your boots for the people?
Want to show off my boots?
See how I segued into those boots? See, Pat was the first guy that I saw that had these this brand of boots called New Rock boots, and I saw him wearing these boots, and I was like, holy crap, that is metal as fuck. Where did you get that? And he told me, and I found out about that, so I ordered. They're pretty expensive, and they have to custom make them in Spain.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the worst part about it, because I mean, if they don't fit right, then you got to send them back to Spain and wait another 3 weeks to get a pair.
Yeah. When I originally ordered mine, I ordered them and just forgot about it, and like it was several months later. I want to say it was like 6 months later, but I doubt it was that long. But then all of a sudden, I got an email back from him like, "Hey, we got your boots. We're sending them out." And what a dream!
They're really,
it's like
they're pretty ridiculous. They're pretty ridiculous boots, but they're really comfortable. So it's not like one of those. I wear them all the time, and it gets a little hot since I'm in Texas, and all we know is heat here.
Once winter comes around, I'll be wearing them again.
Yeah, well, when winter arrives,
yeah, for you, Texas. Yeah, well, right now I'm like riding my bike to work every day, so I can't really pull off the New Rocks, man. They'll be so stinky.
Yeah. New Rocks on a bicycle be. For my motorcycle, they're great. They're actually this motorcycle style. I don't know if it's just the style of shoe that is the motorcycle style, but they seem pretty resistant to damage. Rocks and road damage.
Tough shoes.
They're very well made, so I can kind of wear them while riding and just for.
Yeah, if that's anything I can say is they are really comfortable. Like, they're ridiculously comfortable. When I've got them on, it feels like my foot has a suit of armor on it, and they make me like 4 inches taller. and being tall as it is,
you see, I'm kind of a short guy. I'm only like 5'10" or something. So you put the New Rocks on, I get like maybe
5'10",
break 6.
but thick as hell.
Maybe. Do what I can.
So yeah, I'd kind of like to move into talking a little bit about death metal. I need to refill my drink. For those who've been watching, I've been drinking, as you can tell, the blood of the fallen. No, it's wine because I'm classy. But
I however am not classy, and I'm drinking water out of a Wendy's cup.
Water out of a Wendy's cup. Nice. Hey, I've got water right here. It's water from soup I got delivery from an Asian spot. But this, you can't beat these old Tupperware containers.
You really can't. That's like a college move right there. That's just reuse, recycle and reuse.
So yeah, feel free to jump into what you feel may be either historic, what is death metal, or your favorite bands in death metal, and I will be back in like a minute.
Sounds good. Well, let's see. I mean, I actually had a conversation similar to this with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, where we kind of got into, what kind of constituted the different genres of metal, and because you can always have the overarching, I listen to heavy metal, but that can mean so many different things, like many other genres of music, and anything for that matter that has a genre. There's subgenres, and death metal was always one of those ones that kind of got diced up into a bunch of different names, and you could make columns and bands would crisscross, but there is a really good website called the Map of Metal that we should probably put that in the thing on, if you're doing this on YouTube, you probably check the description area for it. But the Map of Metal kind of lays it out really well, like where different bands have sort of forked and inspired other bands. And death metal always, to me, kind of fell under the category of the anti-culture lyric style, the deep growling, guttural vocals. Always sort of denounced a death metal band for me. But even then, you can't be too sure, because so many other genres of music have kind of come from that, getting into gore metal, and gore metal mostly, as far as I know anyway, was heavily inspired by bands like Cannibal Corpse, and that band has come up again. Death metal to me has always been bands that have the growling vocals, the deep growling vocals, heavy blast beats, and metal in general, the different genres, I've always sort of divided them in my mind by what they're about. The material that they're talking about. A death metal band tends to talk about death, murder, all that fun stuff.
I've got murder on my mind.
I was just kind of rambling a tad about breaking metal genres down from death metal and what kind of has kind of come out of there. And I also mentioned a Map of Metal. I don't know if you're familiar with that website.
It's cool. We can edit that out.
Okay, sounds good. Works for me. But yeah, the Map of Metal was just something I threw out there that is actually one of those websites and resources that kind of splits up metal genres and breaks them up into the different kind of subgenres of metal that have either influenced bands or have led to other bands. But death metal in general, to me, has always kind of been defined by its subject matter. And a lot of different genres of metal.
Well, death metal has their subject matter, the particular growl style of voice that they use, and a lot of the guitar riffs. There's a lot of very specific guitar riffs, like some of the stuff that like Morbid Angel threw down early on, in like the early death metal days. You can still hear that influence in a lot of stuff, and even God, when did Deicide start? Like 1980s something, or even the band Death and Possessed.
Yeah,
those bands are like early 80s, 1985 or something like that. Dying Fetus.
Saw them live.
Oh,
Good
that's
show.
Cool. You know who's pretty dope? I used to be really into Obituary. That's an old death metal band.
It's classic death metal.
I think. Let me check. Yeah, they've got this instrumental song called "Turned Inside Out." I heard it might not be instrumental, but I've somehow over the years stumbled across a live remaster of "Turned Inside Out" by Obituary, and it's just an instrumental song performed live, and man, it's just really nice. It's just clean, just really going at it, clean death metal. I think without the vocals, sometimes that could, like I said, appeal to more people. Mm-hmm. But I'm totally down for the vocals. Don't think I'm like coming. I got nothing bad to say.
Yeah, death metal's weird in that respect because a lot of it's just so different band to band. Like it's very similar, but it is extremely different band to band as far as things like that. Like you're talking about, like the more instrumental stuff, the more technical aspects of death metal has actually spawned its own new subgenre, like tech death.
Oh yeah.
And tech death is awesome, and mellow death, like melodic death metal. Some of my favorite bands come out of those two subgenres.
Melodic death metal can be really interesting. Well, melodic black metal as well.
Yeah, melodic black metal is.
There's a lot
awesome,
of stuff coming out of the UK right now, and like the UK and most of that whole area, like Finland, God damn it, Poland even.
Yeah. Actually, there is a black
Polish
band
band.
from Poland.
Let me just throw out a Polish band real quick. Behemoth. Holy crap, dude! Behemoth is like one of the hardest bands. Like, go to YouTube, put in Behemoth space Left Hand of God, and watch that music video. That music video is an awesome music video, and that song is probably, like, I'd heard Behemoth before this, and I had a few of their tracks, and I liked them, but this was probably the song that I was like, okay, I'm sold. And then I bought a few of their albums, and they have, God, but they're just ridiculously hard, and really into it. I mean, these guys are serious.
Yes. That's an awesome. Behemoth is a great band. It's another one. I kind of got in late on the Behemoth.
I did too. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a song from like their latest album over here.
I got in really late on Behemoth. I've heard of them before, but I never kind of got around to listening to them because there's just so many bands. You just make a list.
Absolutely. You can't really apologize for that fact because, wow. If there's a genre that has so many bands, and not only so many bands, but so many bands from other countries that have no coverage at all where we are, that you have to really dig to even understand. There's this band called Mischosen. You've probably never even heard of these guys, but it's spelled just like it sounds, M-I-S, chosen. The end. I've only heard like a couple of their songs on YouTube, and they're not bad. They're a very like a dark melodic death metal style band. That some of their early work is clearly like, okay, this is one guy with a keyboard in his house. But their newer stuff has gotten a lot better as the artist himself has progressed. But how there would be no way you would have known about those bands ever in the 90s. There'd be no way. It would just be impossible.
Yeah. Not over here. I mean, nothing really kind of got out of, especially like a Scandinavian band, or if you're talking about, I don't know where that band was from that you were just talking about, but
I don't even
know. Polish band?
YouTube, that's where they're from.
They're from YouTube. I didn't know about black metal until I was much older, in my kind of like my metal progression. I didn't hear about that till quite a bit after the internet, and it became a lot easier to find music. But like the mid '90s, nope.
I couldn't think of a
single.
I know the very first. I might have heard black metal before this and didn't recognize it as black metal, because the first song that I actually heard that I liked, and it first led me into finding more black metal, was a Dumi Borgir. Did I say it right? Damn it.
Almost.
Like I said, folks, I'm going to say it different every time.
Just make a montage of all the different ways you say Dimmu Borgir.
Yeah, it's a drinking game. It's a drinking game. If I say it different, take a shot. Okay, so check this out. The first song I ever heard was Kings of the Carnival Creation, because I got like I don't know how I found it. It was just one of those random chants. And it's not even one of their main songs. It's not even one of their popular songs as far as I know. I don't even know. What's a popular song over there? I don't even know. But for me, it was like, who is this band? When I first heard this song, I was like, what is this band? I've never heard this before. They had like an orchestra in the background, and this song was, they had like the crazy double bass going, but the song kept changing over and over, and I was like, what is happening in this song? And it led me to looking more and more of them, and I pretty much have like, you know, all their albums now, and I've seen them live. And let me tell you, all the bands before them, there was some amazing shows before them, because when they come, they bring the goods. But then when they came on, it was like watching a movie in one of those big IMAX theaters when these guys came on stage, because the whole stage was just filled with smoke, and they had all these crazy, like over the top apocalyptic medieval sci-fi like shapes on the stage of like skulls on it, and all their outfits were just over the top outfits. It looked like they were made of human skin. And like I said, if all the smoke, you could barely see anybody on stage, except for every once in a while they'd like pop out of it and be like, oh god. And they were another one of those bands that is clearly a seasoned touring band, because they never stopped. Like, it was like the double bass was like, and it kept going, like solid, like, and they would just transition from one song to the next. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I've gotten to see them live once. It was an amazing show. Couldn't ask for a better performance.
Yeah, they're
Crazy.
Performers to the max.
It is a show. It's entertainment. You know, very much like Cradle of Filth. You know, say what you will about that band, when they are live, they are entertainers. Like they're putting on
Absolutely.
a show.
There's something
smoke
to be said.
and lights and acrobats and all sorts of.
I believe
I'm
it.
serious. There are people on. There was this one guy doing like this odd crab walk who had foot and hand stilts. He was in this weird costume. Like
I've
looked.
seen that stuff. It's
He
like
was ridiculous
it's like
looking.
that Return to Oz movie with those people on the wheels.
The wheelie guys.
The creepiest movie ever made.
Movie's horrifying, but yeah, like that guy, like one of those dudes is walking around in the background looking like a human spider, and women hanging from the ceiling
That
on
would be
ribbons
awesome.
doing those spins.
Yeah, I know.
Using
I know
the
you're
ribbons
talking
hanging
about.
from the
You can YouTube that. Gorgoroth got in trouble for, they had a live show where they had like, what is it, pig? It was either pigs or goat heads. I think it was goat heads. Like
Pig heads, yeah.
like legit heads chopped off and on stakes across, like it was the whole front of the stage was like a metal gated fence of spikes across the front of the stage, pig heads on each one. And on one side was a guy butt naked, crucified with a bag over his head. And on the other side of the stage was a woman butt naked with a bag over her head, crucified. Holy shit.
You know, it's funny that was when they were in Warsaw in Poland, and the video of that show was confiscated by the police because I guess by Polish law, you are not allowed to offend a religion by Polish law. So they got in quite a bit of trouble, and they're actually not allowed inside the country.
Wow. Yeah.
Good to know. And then Behemoth comes from Poland,
Behemoth
so I wonder
is
how
from Poland.
that works. They must not do any of their filming or recording in Poland.
You know what? Back to the game industry really quick. You know how Germany bans all violent games with guns, but Crytek,
Yeah.
the creators of Crysis and Crysis 2,
It's interesting
And 3.
that you mentioned that.
Crytek.
It's interesting.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually, when I was working for Activision, we had the whole list of all the things you couldn't have in Germany, in a game in Germany. That list is hilarious.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Hilarious.
I remember working on Warhammer and going through every single asset and finding skulls and deleting the skulls for like a China release.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Development in Germany. We talk about all the outsourcing that all of the U.S. studios do to China. China has equal to Germany, and as far as how strict, if not more so, about what you can and can't have in the art and games. But yet it's okay, I suppose, for them to create it and send it back to us? Is that how it works?
I don't know. Look, irony is one of those things that is very difficult to accurately state. But when we worked on Warhammer, and I was an outsourcing World Art lead for a while there, we outsourced a lot of pieces that had skulls on it, which were outsourced to our outsourcing studio in Shanghai, in China. For those that don't have a map and are retarded. And
you got to find the Iraq with maps in your house.
Everything in Warhammer has a skull on it. The end. There's no more. Everything in Warhammer has a skull on it somewhere. No, that's kind of that's
anyone who worked on Warhammer got really good at painting skulls.
You know. So basically, what happened was the art that was made in China, which made all the skulls on it, we had to go back and remove the skulls they added for a release for them to play it. I don't know if that's irony or not. Like I said, it's very difficult to say for sure because to get it right, it's not an Alanis Morissette song. But you know what? None of this has anything to do with metal except for the fact that skulls are metal. Ugh.
That's right.
Here's an interesting thing.
Hammer's metal.
One of the times that I saw Cannibal Corpse live, they weren't the main act. They were opening for, get this, Hatebreed. And the reason that we all figured that they were opening for Hatebreed is so that people would go and see Hatebreed. Because the show was, the opening acts and all this stuff were awesome. Then Cannibal Corpse, amazing. And then when Cannibal Corpse were done and they were changing the stage up, the crowd was half or more. Just everybody, people left. And then Hatebreed came on and they did their thing and the guy ran back and forth across the stage rapping with a bandana on his head and I drank beer.
That's the reaction that I would have. That's man, rap metal. That's an interesting segue.
Yeah,
Remember that stuff?
Oh yeah, well, like I said, we're talking about Korn earlier. Back when they did that, they called it nu metal, right? Nu metal. Is that right?
Yeah, because
that was
so. I'm not sure what nu metal nu metal. I see that
Korn,
term thrown
Slipknot,
around
Limp
a bit.
Bizkit, Godsmack, Cold Chamber, System of a Down, Disturbed. I'm reading a list.
Fair enough, that works for me.
But all those
sounds
bands are in
about
that same genre, and I fell asleep during Disturbed, so grow some hair, Baldy. You know what I'm talking about. No, I remember listening to Korn a lot, and I remember listening to a lot of Slipknot. Early Slipknot, we talked about this before, me and you.
Mm-hmm.
Early Slipknot, like the first album, and even a little bit of the second, back when it was just chaos. It was just so over the top. There was just these 9 guys going crazy with instruments. That was some very interesting stuff. But by their third album, they had completely cleaned up and everything was pop. And that's the end of them.
It's a shame because, Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, which I believe was their first album before their untitled one.
Oh, that album was ridiculous.
That was a really good album.
I was lucky enough to find a copy of that. I don't even have it anymore, but it is so over the top ridiculous. I remember their songs in my head, but I couldn't. There's no way I could explain what was happening in those songs.
Yeah, Slipknot was very strange because I think it was one of those bands that was so different because there's 9 people. One of them's a DJ. 2 of them are banging on kegs.
Yes.
It was ridiculous, and I think it caught a lot of people's eye and brought them into the genre. I think Slipknot did a really good thing for metal in general, even though their later albums I'm not a big fan of.
Absolutely. Well, they got a taste of the money and cleaned up for more of it. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened to them. Look, when I say unfortunately, they might even be making more money right now. I don't even know. I don't know because I'm out.
They probably are.
I'm out. Look, I bought all their early albums. I supported them, and I thought they were dope in the early days. So help them get off their feet. So it doesn't matter how I feel about them now because I gave them the money when they needed it.
You want to hear any argument from me? I really dug those first couple albums for Slipknot.
Absolutely.
I thought it was really cool.
And Cold Chamber, I like some of their early stuff too.
They're what band are they now?
I don't even know, man.
They are
I only
Devil
know,
Driver. They're Devil Driver
really?
now.
Well, I only even
Yes.
remember their name because I'm looking at a list of bands right now.
All I remember
I would have
from
never even
Cold
brought them up.
is all I remember from Cold Chamber is a song called Big Truck, where the only lyrics
Oh my
were
God, big truck.
Big Truck and moving, pushing, big truck. That's Cold Chamber in my head. That's all it is.
You know, we talked about
With a ridiculous video that was like they were playing music in one of those ice cream trucks. They were driving around in an ice cream truck.
Who even remembers music videos? Hey, we were talking about power metal just a little bit earlier when we talked about Dio. There's a few bands like Scorpions, Judas Priest, you know. Ooh, dude, okay, check this out. The first time, I think it was I'm pretty sure it was Cannibal Corpse. I was living in Nebraska and they were coming to some just dirt shit bar in Nebraska to play this show. And I was so excited to see them, but something happened, like their van broke down and they didn't make it. So Manowar was an opening act, and these are the Guinness World Record holder for loudest band, and they're a power metal band. They're just ridiculous. They ended up being the main act, and those guys put on the most ridiculous show. Like, those guys were just going at it. The guys were like back to back, like dancing. The dude at the end was playing a song while breaking every string. And if you really like power metal, you should check out Hammerfall: Heroes Return. Like, that's clean vocal style metal. I don't want to talk about it much, but I felt that it deserved at least a moment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I actually quite a bit of power metal. There's some really, I don't know, underrated bands, I think, that fall into the power metal genre. Bands like Blind Guardian. Like, Blind Guardian is pretty much, when I think of power metal, I think of Blind Guardian or Rhapsody, which is a little sillier, but it's good stuff. But it's a little, I don't know, you can't really judge silliness comparing power metal bands because they're almost always singing about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, look, here's every power metal song. The dragon stayed at the top of the mountain, and the volcano erupted. The sword of the gods. It's all stuff like that. You know, stuff like that. The mightiest warrior could slay the beast to save us from the Parthenon. Yeah, it's just so ridiculous.
It is.
I love power metal lyrics.
Nothing but speed riffs. Just
yeah,
they're just shredding the whole way.
Power metal, bro.
It's fun stuff. It's very funny. Very entertaining. Like, I mean, like this band Blind Guardian.
Dude, one of the things about power metal is when those guys are on stage live is they have a smile on their face the whole time. I saw this band recently. I'm not sure that they're kind of like a mix between like power metal and kind of black metal from Canada called Blackguard. And I've seen them live a couple of times now. And these guys, like the lead guitarist was like jumping up on this platform just like just smiling and just shredding, just destroying it, just amazing band. And these were an opening act. So like right after they performed, the guy is just standing at the bar right beside me, and I'm like, dude, I loved your attitude. And he's like, oh, thank you very much. Like, just being super nice. And I told him straight up, I'm like, look, your attitude on stage, how into it, and how happy you are that, I just love that. And he was very appreciative. Anyway.
Yeah, I've listened to a bit of Blackguard. They're pretty ridiculous. I like that. But yeah, that whole genre of metal is very strange and awesome in its own way. Because we're all video game nerds. What's music without some Lord of the Rings?
Absolutely.
But
we kind of branched off out of death metal before. I think it was immaturely. Because we talked about Cannibal Corpse and how 6 Feet Under kind of came out about that because wasn't it Chris Barnes used to be the vocalist for... Is that how it worked? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think 6 Feet Under started as Chris Barnes' side project because George Fisher left Cannibal Corpse for whatever reason, and Chris Barnes stepped in as the new vocalist for a lot of their middle albums. And Chris Barnes' side project, or the
That
band
dude
that he,
has
the band he was
foot-length
also in.
dreadlocks. His
Yes,
dreadlocks
yes,
go
he
all the way
does.
down to the freaking ground. Chris Barnes.
And yeah, so 6 Feet Under kind of was the side project of Chris Barnes while he was, I'm not sure beforehand, but definitely while he was in Cannibal Corpse.
I enjoy 6 Feet Under. I like them quite a bit. And here's a weird thing for me. 6 Feet Under had a track called "Torture Killer," which is a defining name.
To the point. To the point.
But there's also like I don't want to say they're like a tribute band. Like a tribute band, whether they play covers. But there's a band called Torture Killer, which is like another Chris Barnes side project possibly, because he did the lyrics of some of their earlier albums. But they've continued to work, and their latest album, which I think came out this year or last year, called Sewers, and has a different vocalist. And they sound just like 6 Feet Under, but just they have some pretty decent songs. And it's weird how like I was saying, like one band leads into another band, into another band, into another band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'm actually pretty bad about remembering like the names of people who start other bands from other bands. Like I'm terrible at it. Like I know so many other bands that I really enjoyed.
The only reason I'm able to name these names is because these are like the 2 or 3 I can remember.
Yeah.
The only names I dropped were like the one about Max and then Chris Barnes, and it's the only 2.
Yeah, you talked to me about some early black metal bands, and I may be able to figure it out just because I was so fascinated by it for so long. But talking about anything else, I have no idea who anybody is.
Yeah.
As far as like,
what's that?
Yeah, that's the guy who makes good music. All right, yeah, I'm down with that guy. I'll give him my money.
What's that? You're into this more. How do you say that? It's like the Meshuggah style.
Meshuggah. Oh yeah. Meshuggah is like I would probably consider Meshuggah itself a mathcore band. Really interesting timing, very experimental stuff, awesome music. But there's a whole kind of like subgenre that came off of just Meshuggah, which is referred to as gent.
Yeah.
Which is a
now,
J.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Yeah.
I was just curious, like Fear Factory. Or are they like a pre or post Meshuggah? Because they were kind of considered like industrial metal early on.
I'm pretty sure that Fear Factory either came out with their albums right around when Meshuggah did, or a little beforehand, because I remember Fear Factory.
Somewhere in an interview, Fear Factory said they were like something Hyperblast or something like that. Like there's some interview with Cataclysm where the lead singer said, Fear Factory referred to themselves as this type of music, so we're going to call ourselves this type of music. But they were from Canada, so they called themselves Canadian Hyperblast. But I don't even... he might have been in jest. He might have been just kind of making a joke there. It's just some random interview that I might be misquoting, which I probably am. But, whatever. Cataclysm's a good blend. I like Cataclysm.
I agree with that.
The Road to Devastation. It's kind of one of those slower metal tracks. It's like long. Oh, whew. Whew.
If you want to talk about long songs and we're getting into death metal, you should talk about Opeth. 15-minute songs. You can't go wrong with like some weird melodic.
They do a lot of melodic
experimental death metal that's just 15 minutes of like really awesome metal noise.
I would say Opeth kind of, I don't want to say is the word mainstream because that's the wrong word for them. But Opeth kind of they may reach a broader audience. Possibly.
I'd agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Fair enough.
They are their own. They are Opeth though. They are very.
They got some talented guys in that band. Some really talented.
Yeah, they make some amazing music. Not so good on the album names though. I mean, you can only do so many Blackwater Parks before you run out of numbers. But
yeah, you're talking about
they're all good.
You're talking about long songs, like some of the longest songs. Like the longest songs that I know, they're okay. Right, that might be a limitation of speech there, but bands like Nile and who are death metal, and a black metal band called Nagaroth. You ever heard of them? From Germany. It's actually just one guy.
Okay.
They have like 10, 12-minute long songs that they just keep going. I don't know if it's like sometimes, maybe it's not necessarily good or bad, but it when it comes to like, just sitting back and doing work, when a 10-minute long track comes on, you're like, all right, here we go. Time to focus.
That's like this band Arsis, which is a melodic. They're probably like a technical death metal band, melodic death metal band.
Technical and melodic can really get interesting.
This band Arsis is amazing. It's one of my favorite bands that are relatively new. I think they only founded in the last couple of years, and they only got big in the last couple of years, for that matter. But they're an amazing band, and they have on their first album a 13.5-minute song that is nothing but ridiculous shredding and vocals and badass guitar playing for 13.5 straight minutes. And I've seen them play it live.
Oh, wow.
All 13.5 minutes of this song live.
Uninterrupted as they intended.
As uninterrupted as intended, and it was amazing.
That's cool, man.
The song is called A Diamond for Disease by Arsis. I would highly recommend it.
Right on. Hey, there's a couple bands I want to mention before we wrap up here, because we're reaching the 90-minute mark. Generally, that's
about a good 90 minutes, damn.
Yeah, dude. I told you, man, it is easy. When you got something that you like to talk about, and you can really talk about it with somebody that's also like-minded, the hardest part is editing this stuff and getting it all together. The setup was more work than getting this together. Anyway, like, I just wanted to just mention a couple bands out of a slightly different genre, Possibla. Look, I just wanted to say Faith No More for the track Jizzlobber. It's pretty dope. And I wanted to
Faith No More is a great band.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to mention Prong, Prong, just because I've seen these guys open up for other bands so many times. Prong is the band that I've seen the most live, just because they're prolific and they seem to tour with so many different guys. They opened up for like Fear Factory and they opened up for Soulfly, and it was twice. And one time they came out and did a duet with Max. And like I said, they just really put on a good show. They do their best. Any particular band you'd like to name as like a favorite? They're not my favorite. I'm just saying I respect what they just did there. But yeah, feel free to chime in with.
Well, I mean, I had to plug that Arsis song.
Mm-hmm.
Just that band is really, really cool. I saw them with the Cannibal Corpse show for the Extermination Plague tour, or one of the tours. Oh, Evisceration. And they were
Driven
amazing.
to
They were on the
kill.
second stage, and
It's not my will. I am prepared to slay. Anyway,
that's another thing. That's another thing about those death metal bands and their lyrics, and the gore metal bands. Like you open one of those books and you just read it, and it's really just the lyrics to these songs are very straightforward. It's torture, murder, kill,
yeah.
torture.
It's like if you're really into horror movies. It's
Yeah.
the music for you. But one of the things, I got to throw this out there. My dad, growing up, he's a music minister for Southern Baptist Church. That's pretty much what he was, for all I remember. And he's a musician himself, and the fact that he can do all that stuff. He can play guitar, and he was always singing songs. And he used to always sing these songs that weren't as much a song but a story. Like those old time storytelling songs where the guy would like just kind of play a riff on the guitar and like tell you a story about something. And there'd be this one story about a witch that I always thought was awesome. So that's kind of what drove me to 1349. Is some of their songs aren't like, yeah, he sings for some, but black metal singing is it really singing, or is it screaming? I don't know. But there's some songs where it's literally like he's talking and telling you a story, and that kind of inspired me in that manner. Anyway, I just had to get that out there.
No, I completely agree with you on that one. I love that band. Another band that's a lot like that is Amon Amarth.
Yes, Amon Amarth is a storytelling
Viking
band.
metal.
Oh my god!
They tell stories. Their albums are just stories, and all their like that. Fintroll. Fintroll is another band that tells a story. All their albums, they draw from the mythology of their homelands. Fintroll is from Finland, oddly enough, and Amon Amarth is from Norway, or I think they're from Norway. Oh man, I could be wrong.
Somewhere.
Yeah,
Internet, get mad at
Scandinavia. Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure they're from Norway. Anyway, they draw from the folklore and mythology of their countries, and it makes for amazing music.
Dude, that
Great storytelling.
Twilight of the Thunder Gods album from Amon Amarth. There, the last track is one of those, like the classic long storytelling songs, which is a good way to end an album. Embrace of the Endless Ocean. That song gets me every time because the riff that they're doing, that the whole time, and the song ends about how like a big storm hit their ship, and he falls off the ship into the ocean, and he's like the icy waves embrace my song, Father, or embrace my soul, Father, I'm coming home. I died alone. And it's this whole long story about him like sinking into the ocean and being absorbed by this icy frozen water. It's every time, dude. Every time. It just gets me. I love it.
It's hard to get better than that, man. I love it, and it's never a bad time for Amon Amarth. It's never a bad time for some Viking metal.
Oh my god. They have so many good tracks. Woo. Anyway, yeah, if you like metal, get on the internet and find it. There's so many ways to find it now. You got the wiki, you got the YouTube, you look up a band you like, you read the replies, the good ones that say, hey, if you like this band, you should check out this band. Like if I was listening to Job for a Cowboy, and I was like, oh, this song is dope. And someone said, well, you should listen to this Morbid Angel song because it's also good. And I listened to that song. I was like, it's great. And I never heard it before, even though it's a song from way back because you got to trace your origins. You got to find the old stuff to find the new stuff. It's the only way. And go to live shows. You got to go to live shows. It's the only way. You look it up on the internet. You find your bands. You follow them on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. They post their dates. You know when it's going to happen. Hey, Patrick Morrison, don't you have a portfolio website?
I do, yeah, I do.
Tell me all about that real quick.
A portfolio?
How do I get there?
You'd have to go to www.vorgegfx.com. It'll be VORGEGFX.com.
And I'm just going to try this out really quick. For those of you that actually know how to use the internet, you didn't have to type www. Who the hell? How dare you, Pat Morrison, say www?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, but yeah.
I'm bad at technology.
VORGEGFX.com. This is a Vorge Effects, the personal and professional artwork of Patrick Morrison. You can see his high poly work of some ZBrush critters. You can see his low poly work, which appears to be a bunch of stuff from Warhammer Online. And it's pretty dope because if you were a character artist on Warhammer Online, you were pretty effing good at your job.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, he did some sweet stuff. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. Check out Pat. You know, he's a guy. He likes to make art. He's a good guy. You can.
I like to update my blog. It's got stuff on it.
You got a blog?
Stuff and things. Yeah, you can. There's a button for it.
Oh, let me check
on
here.
top there.
Oh yeah. Oh, just under his main graphic, you got the resume. Under there, the sculpting blog. You click on that. Oh yeah, is this guy you're working on now? If you know Pat on Facebook and stuff, he's been. Is this the guy you were working on the boots the other night? You drew the concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've been following on Facebook, you've seen this guy. You know what's up. Okay, there it is. Okay, I recognize it now. Whoa, you got like a little, almost like a Polycount logo over his junk.
Just gotta represent Polycount, man. It's my home.
Hey, that's where it's at. And here's a weird thing. Check this out. Right before I was leaving, this guy, let me find him. I gotta scroll down on G Plus here. Oh, damn it. I got so many trolls on my G Plus now. I'm talking about you, Benjamin Johnson. Wow, they've trolled it all the way. Zach Donald, shout out to you for posting the CrunchCast number 9 right before I hopped on my bike and rode home to record this podcast with Pat Morrison. Weird. So yeah, check him out. He's a good guy. Check out the CrunchCast at CrunchCast.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Holden Dev. Pat doesn't use his Twitter and doesn't care about that because he's got his blog. Follow his blog. If you're not following his blog and listening to metal, you can go fuck yourself. And that's the best way to end the show, unless you have anything you want to say to fill us out.
I think you did perfectly. Thank you very much for having me,
Oh,
man.
yeah,
Thank you.
it
I
was
appreciate
great
it.
having you. I'd love to have you again if you want to talk about anything else. Feel free, because that's what this is all
Sounds
about.
great.
You know, we discuss, we talk about things, and we grow as people, just as the philosophers of old would have it.
Well said. All right.